Bechamel is one of the so-called mother sauces of French cooking because so many other sauces are based on bechamel. Despite it being very simple to make, two mistakes are commonly made. The most common sauce made from bechamel is Mornay, which is really nothing more than bechamel with cheese added, but there's a trick. It confounds many amateur cooks, who wind up with grainy, stringy sauces, sometimes pooled with oil or tasting like burnt cheese. After watching this short video, you'll know everything you need to know about making these two sauces forevermore. Okay, we're going to begin the bechamel with 30 grams, it's about an ounce of butter. I'm going to melt that in a pan first. Okay, so the butter's started to foam up. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. Now, because our final application here being a Mornay sauce and not regular bechamel, I'm going to also add a teaspoon cornstarch. Yeah, this surprises a lot of people these days. You can actually make a bechamel entirely out of cornstarch instead of flour. In fact, in many old 19th century French books, they recommended this because it gives a clearer sauce in the end. But the problem is it doesn't have as much thickening power, and it also is, it has some other peculiarities to it. In this case, I'm mixing the two because this will help prevent the cheese from separating into nasty granules, and also important, I'm going to make this a darker roux than you would. It's not a white roux here. We're making a darker roux, and that will have very little thickening power. The cornstarch will help retain the thickening power. Yeah, I've got the heat here on 4. From 1 to 10, it's on a 4. That means it's going to take a while to get to the color that you want. Also, it means that you won't overshoot the color you want and go to something darker. Now, Cajuns, who are famous for their use of this type of sauce, believe that it can only be made stirring with a wooden spoon, and that it must be cooked for a very, very long time, very, very slowly. Try to hit a compromise between them. We don't need to make this take 40 minutes to cook, but at the same time you don't want to crank up the heat and try to get it done in 2 or 3 minutes, because it won't be cooked evenly, and that's part of the beauty of this for the final flavor, so it doesn't taste like flour, and that it has good thickening power. So you don't have to stand over it constantly. But we'll keep an eye on it, stir it every once in a while. We're going to let this cook until it gets the color we want. I'll show you in a few. Okay, it's been cooking for 3 or 4 minutes, and now we're at what would be called a pale roux. There's a number of different naming conventions as to what color is what. We've gone beyond white, but we're not quite to blonde yet. And some people call this a pale roux. There's 12 names as I've shown on that chart, but you can also see there's pale and there's brick that kind of fall between different colors. Okay, it's been a couple more minutes. Now we're at full blonde, and we're moving past blonde into beige rather rapidly here. If you can see that, the color renditions on this camera leave a lot to be desired. It's been another minute. If you can see how it's darkening now. Fast. By the way, you notice I did not use clarified butter in the beginning here. Clarified butter is more important if you're going to make a dark roux, or if you're going to try to cook it in a hurry, because then the milk solids tend to burn if you put them on very high heat. But if you're doing this over really low heat, and you're not going beyond about peanut in your the color of your roux, you don't really need to bother making using clarified butter. It's just an extra step. It won't make any difference in the taste in the end. And if you're making a really dark roux, like you would use for Cajun food, then you're better off using oil, not butter, which is what they use. They generally use oil for this. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm sure you can't see the actual color of this. This has reached the color of peanut now, and I'm adding 300 milliliters of milk. Also, here's another example where most books tell you that you need to use scalded milk, or milk that's been heated, boiled first. Well, that will make the roux form faster. That's true. If we're in a professional French kitchen where we were standing making roux all day long, yeah, we would have a pot of milk sitting in the corner somewhere on the corner of the trivet, and it would be ready to go. Keep this going faster. At home, you can just use refrigerated milk. It's fine. Now we're going to increase the heat a little bit, whisking it. And we want to see this actually thicken up and reduce a little bit before we proceed. Okay, let's add an actual boil. Now I'm going to turn the heat off completely. Now one of the problems, especially amateurs and even beginning cooks get with trying to make a Mornay sauce, and Mornay is just cheese added to bechamel, that's all it is that you put the cheese in when the sauce is too hot. The cheese immediately turns into these nasty grainy bits that nobody wants to eat. You make a Mornay, you make it in 2 stages. You're making first the bechamel, now you're going to leave it to cool. It'll take a little bit longer. Okay, it's been about 4 minutes now. I'm going to add a little bit of dried mustard. Do not add prepared mustard to this. If you don't have dried mustard, don't add it. I'm also going to add a little nutmeg, which is extremely traditional in this. Now, a lot of people these days, for some reason, want to add egg yolk or even a whole egg to this. It's extremely not traditional. You do not add egg yolk to bechamel, and you don't need it either. So, I'm also adding some white pepper. And I'm not going to add the salt yet because cheese contains a lot of salt. And I don't know how salty this particular cheese is going to be, how it's going to taste in the end. So I'm going to add that only after we've added all the cheese. Now, this is still warm. The thing you want to do at this point is touch it to your finger. If it burns your finger, it's too hot. And this right now is still a little bit hot. Okay, it's been another couple minutes. Now I touch it. It's good. It's warm, but it's not burning anymore. Now I'm going to actually turn the heat back on, and I've got the cheese that I'm going to beginning to add to this. And the next question, of course, is how much cheese? Anywhere between 60 grams and 120 grams. That's between 2 ounces and 4 ounces for this volume. It depends on your final application and depends on the type of cheese. I certainly wouldn't add 4 ounces of a strong blue cheese to this sauce. It would be disgusting and salty beyond belief. But you notice that this is the right temperature. The cheese, when it's grated, is already practically melting into it. I don't have to do very much work. And by the way, I turned the heat on 3. Out of 1 to 10, it's on a 3. So it's not very strong. I'm adding about 85 grams of a cheese that's similar to Jack cheese in the U.S. You could add cheddar, you could add anything else. And I'm adding it about 3 batches. And this is going to end up being quite thick. From here you can thin it down with stock. You can use it as it is. This is a good consistency for putting under a broiler and getting, if you're coating the top of something with a glaze of cheese and then you flash it into a salamander or a broiler to give a nice brown look. That works very nicely with it. And it's not going to be grainy at all because we waited for this to cool down before we added the cheese. That's the key. Do not add cheese to a hot sauce, and if you're going to make it a Mornay, use some cornstarch. Don't use all flour. Nice and smooth. Yeah, it's very thick, but it's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to taste it. Okay. Now we're going to begin adding some salt to it. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.